And that stick that you have, is it your impression that that contains information that you otherwise would have had to, obtain a warrant to obtain?
Clinton Jaws, I love it when I get it right. Yeah. Subscribe to my channel. 9 o'clock this morning, RCMP Commissioner, he goes on Vassy. Vassy has him spill the beans. Finally. I've been hearing a lot lately about Trudeau having the RCMP Commissioner in his back pocket. You guys owe it to yourselves to watch what I'm about to say. Don't be that guy that throws that term out there. Oh, Trudeau's pulling the strings. And then not listen to what I have to say. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's what's happening. I thought this was big. The commissioner, he tells you why he made that announcement on Thanksgiving. And he also tells you why he's not grabbing onto those documents, with the Liberals funneling money to their own companies. Do you remember when I said this?
I don't know. I just don't. I hate seeing Canadian YouTubers grab a page from the media, because that's not why people come to watch us. They come to watch us because we're not the media. We're not CTV. We're not CBC. I don't want them to fall into that trap. I don't like seeing it. We got to get it right.
It's important that we get it right. And I know we're going to get it wrong, but it's important that we focus on getting it right. And then I said this.
The other day, the RCMP commissioner came out and he started talking about India. Well, why'd he do that? Oh, Trudeau got him to do it. Do you not think that maybe he did it as a warning?
No, Clint. He did it on Thanksgiving to help Trudeau. It was a distraction for him, remember? Remember everybody was saying that? His buddies are trying to get him to resign. Well, you know what I should do? I'm going to phone up the RCMP commissioner and tell him right now, today, to make an announcement about India. I told you guys he came out because he needed to warn Canada. What's the RCMP commissioner got to say about this? Let's watch.
And finally, a point of clarification, because there have been some, I guess, characterizations of the press conference, questions raised, I guess you could say, by the opposition that it was, that you did that because the Prime Minister was going to testify a few days later or wanted to turn the page on other political issues. Was the decision to hold the press conference on Monday entirely of the RCMP's volition?
Yeah, it was. Actually, what's interesting, here's...
What?
I'm not aware of the Prime Minister's schedule all the time. I know when he leaves Canada. But as to his appearances and inquiries and whatnot, I don't really track that. But
sure.
This has been planned for quite some time. The exact date as to when we're going to come out was not identified. It was only after the ill attempts to reach out to the government of India's official to discuss the matter, the meeting that took place in Singapore
Washington?
with the Deputy Minister of Global Affairs as well as the NSIA, that following that meeting there was an article in the Indian media that kind of misrepresented some of the things that were said. So one, we were concerned about disinformation, misinformation, but the underlying factor is not reaching the key objectives. We said it's time to go out immediately because there's still a serious threat to the population.
And that was not at the direction of the Prime Minister's
No,
office?
never once have we been directed by the government. And my last 7 years in key positions in the organization, never once. And this is a file which is interesting, Vashi, because we brought this to our minister and the Prime Minister and the Minister of Global Affairs Canada. We were generating.
If anything, he's got Trudeau in his back pocket.
And we were actually leading it, and then it was a coordinated approach.
You've been in policing for 35 years. This press conference, these allegations have made headlines around the world because they involve, agents of a government of a democratic country. Have you ever seen anything like this?
I've never seen this. It's actually a little surreal when you look at all this.
Guys, you can believe what you want to believe, but it's pretty obvious to me. Now, the next point she brings up, it's a big deal. And I hope I'm not coming across as a jerk, okay? I just loved hearing this today. I've heard a lot. Oh, look at the RCMP commissioner. He won't get those documents. Those documents that are going to prove liberal corruption, that they funneled money to their own businesses. Why won't he get them? He's helping Trudeau again. And then I came on and I said this.
Stop saying the police don't do nothing. Stop saying this about the police. Why don't the RCMP just grab onto those documents? They're sticking up for Trudeau. They should just grab onto those documents and charge people. It's not how it works. Criminal Code of Canada, my criminal code. It has to be in here.
For example, the crime of fraud. How do you prove fraud? More than often, you have to get a search warrant.
If there's a ton of cocaine inside a house, a cop can't just show up and ask the homeowner, hey, can I come in and take a look? even if with consent. Okay, if they find the coke, it gets thrown out because they didn't write a warrant. The RCMP have to write a warrant for those documents for any charges to happen. If Trudeau hands over the documents, there's not going to be any charges. And this drove people really crazy because everybody's saying, what is she talking about, the Charter of Rights? She keeps on going up in question period and talking about the Charter of Rights. I don't like this dingbat at all, but she was right.
They want to get around the Charter of Rights and Freedom.
Watch what the commissioner says here, Devassi.
And then I just want to ask you about one other issue that's been permeating through Parliament Hill. It's actually got Parliament Hill at a standstill. It's a decision by an order by the House of Commons to ask the government to turn over documents related to something called Sustainable Development Technology Canada, SDTC for short. It's basically like a green tech fund that the Auditor General said was completely mired in conflicts of interest. The docs, what's interesting here is the order then provides for the documents to go, unredacted documents to go directly to the RCMP. The first question I have is, are you investigating what went on at the SDTC? Because a couple of months ago, the RCMP offered one answer, and then it seems as though lately there is an investigation. Are you investigating?
So I can confirm that we are investigating. And we're going, we did receive the motion that was put forth in the House of Commons. We did receive a USB key that we have stored for the moment. We're still going through available information that's out there to conduct investigation.
Write a search warrant?
There are concerns. I've shared my concerns when it comes to the Charter of Rights. We're dealing with two different processes here. You're dealing with the legislative branch and the executive branch. And the concern that's been shared is the fact that we operate within a judicial process that's very strict. So if I need documents, I need grounds to go and get a search warrant to get those documents.
To write it.
And by going the other way,
you guys,
you're bringing documents that...
They look at the information that they have. If they have enough information, enough evidence, they get to write a search warrant. They take that search warrant to a judge. The judge looks at it and goes, either yeah or no.
And the concern that's been shared is the fact that we operate within a judicial process that's very strict. So if I need documents, I need grounds to go and get a search warrant to get those documents. And by going the other way, you're bringing documents that perhaps the police would never have any grounds to obtain these documents.
No charges.
It's that balance. But what we're doing right now is we're going through everything that's publicly available, and then we'll assess what the next steps are.
What's a USB key? Like, what does that have to do?
Sorry, those little insert keys for the.
But like, what's that? What does that mean?
So
that's where the documents are?
Yeah. So the law clerk. So what we had requested to facilitate our work, it was to make sure that every document was identified if it was parliamentary privilege and how it was obtained, because you got to understand that there's different process where the Office of the Attorney General, when she's doing her work, she operates through a certain set of rules, but those rules might be different when you come into criminal space. So you just can't take a document from her and bring it in. There's a process to do that. So the information was downloaded on a stick, on a USB stick, and we have it in our possession.
And you haven't looked through it yet, though?
We haven't gotten to that. We're exhausting everything we can in the public domain first.
And that stick that you have, is it your impression that contains information that you otherwise would have had to, obtain a warrant to obtain? Because there's still documents outstanding. That's why we're at a paralysis, basically, right?
Yeah, there's still documents out there. And again, I haven't seen what's on the stick. And I'll just comment to the fact that we're going to everything that's in the public domain. The ethics.
Everything that's in the public domain that'll give them grounds to write a search warrant. That'll get approved by a judge.
Commissioner also has a report in which we're going through. If I go back to the Auditor General, she did not see any criminality in her review, and by her mandate, if she does see any criminality, she should stop her investigation and refer it to the RCMP, which hasn't happened. Again, we're going through the...
So why are you investigating then, if you weren't a few months ago?
Well,
every time somebody complains, we investigate.
There was a complaint, and if we receive a complaint, we're investigating. So. And
where did that complaint originate?
I'd have to go back. I'm not quite sure. I'd love to tell you. It's no secret, but I just don't have it with me.
Is it political in nature, or is it
I don't remember. So.
So what exactly are you investigating then? If
We're
there was
investigating if there is any breach of trust in providing contracts. Was there any fraud? Was there any theft? So, and you got to appreciate that when we go into investigation, we look at the different offenses,
big
and
one.
we have to identify the key elements of an offense before we can even lay charge. And then, as I said earlier, if we go and get an information to obtain information, you need proper grounds to get that within the process that we operate, which
Thank
is
you.
different from an administrative process or another process.
so just
Why am I
one
so
final question,
excited?
because there are still documents, unredacted documents that
You know why I'm excited? I just want this guy to do well. We just got rid of Brenda Lucky. I want a commissioner that I like. You know what I mean? And I hope he doesn't screw it up.
the House contends has not been turned over by the government. If ultimately they do turn them over, I mean, the government's concern is that it's a breach of charter rights if it goes automatically, essentially, to the RCMP. If they do turn them over, what is the process? Will you take them and immediately look at them, or are you not immediately looking at
I'll
them?
go back to what I said earlier, Vashi, is we're going to exhaust.
Still gonna get a warrant.
We're going to go through everything that's public first and foremost, and then we'll have to sit down with the team and determine the next steps once we've exhausted everything that's in the public domain.
So it's not a hard no to looking at them, but it's not
It's
for
not
sure
a,
yes.
it's not a hard no to looking at them, but there are concerns from the initial conversations I've had with some of the lead investigators. There is some concerns on the charter side on how we're obtaining the information
It'll screw up
without
your-
any grounds and whatnot. So
It'll screw up your
Okay, I'm going to
investigation.
leave it on that note.
If they don't get evidence for a search warrant, then they're going to look at them, but there's not going to be charges. And at the end of the day, even if they get a search warrant, there probably isn't going to be charges. I wanted to do this video in 5 minutes. I don't know if my point came across. I just thought I'd share it with you. Bye-bye.
What's that?